my soul is tormented by a succubus. Call assist, pencil dripping from the way I spit. Fell in love with this, sis got music, now she in my grips. Wanna take a sip of her only sign says sips.
We have 2 tops, DP has 2 tops. So like, granted, it's only about a 10-day window, so it's really hard to say, but like, it seems like the clans are doing all right. I think they'll see more play going forward in the next few weeks, but it's hard to say still.
Yeah, like what I'm waiting for is the second week of BTO5 coming out and seeing where we are then, because that's just gonna be like, in my opinion, the measuring stick. Because
Sorry,
are
DP has 3 tops.
well, yeah, to me that's gonna be the measuring stick, and it's gonna speak volumes to me of where we are. Like, not even just as our clan, just as a set for EVO8, to see what gets power creeped out, what actually stays, what works, what doesn't work. Because the first week
I don't see us topping into VBTO5, just simply because why play us when you can play all the popular clans on that set?
Yeah. See, and that's the thing that I'm afraid of. That's why I'm saying, like, 2 weeks, I'll give it to see, like, to use as the measuring stick. Because the first week is going to be everybody flocking over to those clans and playing all the new stuff. And then afterwards, people should be calming down. They figured out what they want to play, figured out, I like this deck better than this deck, and then if they top, they top.
Yeah, there's never going to be a situation where people are like, I want to play Aquas for the most part, unless like you're a dedicated player.
Yeah.
I already said before, I don't expect us to get more than 5 to 8 tops in this current meta. We've already gotten 2, and then 1 team, so technically 3. So like that already exceeded my expectations. Because I only expected about 5. Going forward, we're probably not going to see any tops in Japan anymore when the new set comes out, and that's all right. In the West, I think we'll see a decent amount of tops. We'll just have to see where the innovation goes with that.
Yeah.
I definitely see Grand Blue being a very huge contender in the West, as well as DP. I think you could pretty safely say that Bermuda will fall heavily in popularity over here compared to over there.
Oh,
because over there it's still like by far and large the most played deck, but like they do have a very high, or at least they did have a very high Grand Blue player base in the first week. It dropped off a bit this next week, like this past weekend.
Oh yeah, because that's that in my opinion, that's that measuring stick. It's people flocking to the clan, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, and then the few weeks afterwards, they're like, okay, well I don't like this. Let me go sell it to Jim Bob or Hu Yin, since we're talking about the OCG, who really wanted this clan because it's trash, because they think it's trash because they had bad luck with it, or they didn't practice out like different scenarios, different variations of the deck. So that's to me what that is.
Yeah, so it's hard to say, but I do very firmly think that every clan that says good. I'm very happy to see they're all doing well, considering these are all clans that kind of got the short end of the stick, being one of the earlier clans supported, and all the support from Champions of Asia was very, very safe. Not like super amazing. Nothing really like stood out and wowed me really.
Mm-hmm.
So, like going forward, it's going to be nice to see these decks actually being relevant, actually topping, getting their chance in the spotlight.
Yeah, it is going to be nice, especially when I go to my my fall regional, go in there with my Aquaforce deck and beat some people, and then scrub out.
Speaking of the fall regionals, premium Aquas in the fall regionals.
Oh, that's
so,
it's gonna be spicy.
For those of you who don't know, I recently put out a blog for premium Aquas, basically talking about the future of the clan and how I expect the builds will do. I listed their strengths, weaknesses, what they aim to do, what will really hinder them, my personal thoughts on them and where they'll place. So the only builds I talked about in this first article was Standard Plus, Thavas, and Ripples. We'll talk about that more in a second, which is coming very soon. Is going to feature other builds that I have yet to talk about, and it's going to talk about the more or less the same stuff, but these are the less popular builds or the less known ones And I personally think there's two really spicy ones on this list that aren't necessarily on the level of Ripples, but I do think they can put up results equal to that of Ripples, if that makes sense.
Oh,
And I'm very excited to talk about them, but we're not going to talk about them today because I want to spoil the article.
oh
But
yeah.
Standard Plus, this
Stand.
build, this build since the Tenma post has exploded in popularity. Like people are always asking me about it, asking me how viable it is, asking me if I've ever actually done the 24 attacks. And keep in mind, it can do more than 24 attacks. That's just the maximum he did personally. I've only ever gotten to 19. I've never had the ultra nut high roll 24 attack. Um, it can be very potent, and I'll be honest. In my article, I actually kind of wrote them off a bit too early, but I couldn't have anticipated the changes in some decks, which actually makes this build slightly more viable. Plus, I wrote that before we got Hydro Hurricane, which kinda shores up another one of its weaknesses. So, like, what are your thoughts on Stern Plus?
Standard. Well, Standard Plus. I love it. Like the Tenma build. I love that. Like as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my god, 24 attacks. Like that's so many cards that your opponent's eventually gonna have to let 6 of those go through. Especially if they, for some reason, hit no damage trigger, and because it was at that time featuring Valios, the Stride Valios anyway, and locking your opponent at 11 when they're normally a 11 or 13k base, like I legitimately lost my mind, and then like I started seeing people put in Hydro Hurricane, and I was like, that's kind of good because if people drop Hanali on us, like we literally have nothing stopping us, like and it's a pretty good card. We sit there, we can literally Valios twice in a row. I mean, that's not smart, but we can Valios twice in a row, and then just like kill you, while still having like a 10 to 18 card hand, which is right now 18 cards is my record practicing with that build, while getting up to 15 attacks.
Like,
And yeah,
the deck ceiling is actually crazy. Like, if if the meta wasn't so fast, this deck is really really gross in how good it is.
yeah,
But due to
I,
the nature of the meta, it's very hard to want to take this to a regionals. So like I wrote it off because it technically is a slower combo-y deck. It can early game, but it hurts your combo late game, which is the main issue. And against Neonectar, they're gonna early game better than you because you want to conserve pieces for the value turns.
well, yeah, they
Against Luard, you can early game with them, but they're gonna outdraw you, and they out late you. Well, out early late you, I guess, because technically nothing out late games Alexandros, in
yeah.
my opinion. But the thing is most of my testing was actually against OTT because in my mind, even though I think Luard is the best deck, everybody perceives OTT as the best deck. So most of my testing was against OTT, and I'm going to be 100% honest. A lot of my games was just me getting bodied by Stillwater and Tom because, fun interaction.
Hmm.
But because of Gastiel's existence and because of the Kiba build topping, a lot of people are turning to Bobos over Toms. And that very little window, on top of the fact that I was a dummy and didn't actually read my cards and didn't realize that Galphilia is actually a continuous G guard, we actually have the possibility to be able to play into OTT, which means if we can innovate and find ways to at least shore up our shadow matchup, uh, DI matchup actually isn't a bad one. So shore up our shadow matchup and not auto die to Neonectars. Like there is a world in which this deck can be a very real threat at like in a competitive setting. Um, of course, that's going to require a lot of effort, a lot of play testing, and to be honest, this isn't a deck I would focus that much effort into. I do feel Standard Plus is very good, but I don't think it's very good until after we get the new stuff from Set 8. So I don't think it's really worth testing until then. However, currently, I think the best build we have, even better than current Ripples, as of just getting Premium Collection, is Thabas. Thabas basically takes the meat and potatoes from Standard Plus, incorporates Thabas and the a mini Thabas engine, basically of his starter, And the stand triggers, I know stands, blah blah blah, but the stand triggers function as another pseudo mirage unit that will draw you a card. So it helps you to, you know, build up so Aquaforce first try is notoriously weak. Everybody knows. Like Valios basically is attack, call two, draw two. First try Lambros restands no power. First try Alexandros restands plus 5k, which into V triggers doesn't do anything. Uh, Disaster Maelstrom, if you're playing a Maelstrom build, is 5k to your front row, search a Maelstrom. Uh, Ballad Arena is only as good as your hand is and requires hard card. So like Aqua Strides, first strides are notoriously bad. But in Thabas, because you have the Mitros, because you have this fantastic Mirage engine that you're already using to fuel your Valios turn, second stride, you have a really solid base to basically multi-attack out for, I won't say little investment, but everything self-replenishes. So for every card you commit, you're usually getting that card back or plus one more. Plus you're resolving your Mitros, which gives you a restander you can stick on Excel to still have, some actual attacks that matter somewhere in that turn. And this is a 5 crit 3 stand build, so there is some cheeky things you can do with the crits and the stands. And you then later add that Thabas back to hand. So on average, at the end of first stride, I have anywhere from lowest I've ever had was 9. The most I've ever had was like 16 or 17 cards. It honestly depends on your hand quality. And the very nice thing about this is because of the numbers of the cards you're using to swing out, and because of the nature of what you want to do, if you're against something like, I don't know, DIs, OTT, like these decks will all let you stride first because they all think you can't do anything to them. So they don't care what you do. So against these decks, OTT maybe not so much, but like against DIs, against like Victor, which will probably let you stride first too, because they think their first stride kills or their first stride turn is just going to kill you. You can actually swing out with a bunch of cards that cannot hit Vanguard, but still draw you cards. And that is very important to factor in, because you can damage deny while building up a massive hand and only possibly giving them one counterblast to work with. And like this can help you survive their turn to go into that second stride Valios, which is like the huge wombo turn, which you play all your Mirage units, you swing out with them, you draw cards, you swing with the Valios, you play more cards, you draw more cards, you lock them at 11. Like that's really threatening.
Yeah, it is. Now, for some people that actually don't know what you meant by Mirage unit, it's just the like units like Saberflow Sailor that disappear and
Windy Seas Dolphin,
yeah,
the new crit direct hit Brave Shooter,
yeah.
Halpelos,
For some people,
Seagull Soldier, Penguin Soldier, like these are all Mirage units.
yeah,
Technically, Mitros and the Ruler Thabas he calls from deck.
yeah, because like a lot of people don't understand what that terminology means. So I just wanted to at least drop something for them, so that way they understand and they can keep up with us.
I'll
But
drop something for him.
oh my God,
So yeah, like
Tis from out of the shadows.
this Thabas Valios turn, like it doesn't have the ceiling that Standard Plus has. It's not gonna swing for like 24 attacks or anything like that. It will swing for a lot of attacks, and they're all going to be very potent. Most of them will be able to hit. Sometimes some of them will be just under, because I mean, there's never a situation in which you have that perfect hand. As of right now, like it could be a CB heavy turn, but we're Aquas, so we run Penguin, we have Galphilia. We actually don't really care about CB all that much. Going forward, after EBO8 comes out, and we get the new wheel and stuff like that, this build is just so much better. Like it is so better, because you have the free wheels, you have the on-ride calls, stuff like that. Like the build just gets like a massive buff in what it does. In my opinion, it's my favorite build. It has no bad rides, which the Standard Plus does, because you do run Benedict. And if anybody has ever heard me talk about Benedict, I ride that card all the time when it's in my deck. So no bad rides, which is very important. You only have Diamantes in your Ruler Thabases. The deck is very coherent. The one thing I hear a lot of people say when they see the list is something about the Dolphin stand, but they don't understand how valuable that Dolphin stand actually is, considering it not only does it attack on first and second wave, and it becomes 11k attack on itself, 15 on XL2, which you never actually want to take in this deck. I'll explain why in a moment. So 16, sorry, on XL2, 21 on XL1. These are all good numbers on Valios, even though the only numbers that really matter on the Valios turn is if you hit 15 or 26, which I can explain that later. It's a very good card, and it attacks in the first two battles, which are usually a large problem you'll see playing the deck, and this is something that becomes very apparent early on, is you have a bunch of things that want to attack at fourth battle or more, but nothing that wants to attack first or second. It is actually like one of the most perfect cards to run in the deck. And in the event, yeah, like wall stand trigger does nothing on Valios, does nothing on Commander. That's actually not true. I've like even with units that stuck around post Mirage, I've been able to restand my unit that I gave Commander power to and back row attack. So I've been able to do that. I've been able to restand like an earlier Ruler Thobus. If I had multiples in my hand, I'll usually call them down. So I've been able to restand an earlier Ruler Thobus and still get in more chip damage for fourth battle, and just swing with a vanilla one on the Excel circle because he still has power anyway. On Valio's turn, a lot of times you could restand spent wheel assaults to get even more attacks, because you don't want to squish, like you don't want to call stuff over stuff, because then you're minusing. So like there are times when the stands matter, and you don't shuffle your deck much, so they'll just be at the bottom of your deck anyway later on. So that's just something to keep in mind. Like there's only 2 cards in the deck, I believe, that shuffle the deck. So, and that's your strides. That's your stride fodder if you decide to search a Thobus, which I have done to shuffle the deck to get the stands back in, like some are relevant, and your Mitros, of course.
Yeah.
In regards to the Valios numbers, so the reason why only 11k and 26k matters with Valios is because these are the grades of shield value they force. So 11k naturally is going to force any shield. But it doesn't matter until after you hit 26k, because that means they have to either commit a PG or a heal, or more than one card to guard your attacks.
Yeah.
Anything under 26k doesn't matter, because it's always going to be a 1-card guard. So that's what I talk about when I talk about only 11k and 26k matters on Valios.
Yeah, and that's like a lot of the stuff that you said is just like stuff that's like literally trapped in my brain. I can't get it out like verbally. So I'm glad that you are here to express what's in my mind. And a lot of people don't realize these kind of things because they don't take. I don't feel like they've looked too much at Aquaforce for standard yet. Or not standard. I'm sorry, for premium. But like in my opinion, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the best premium deck is Ripples. It has everything that I think I would want in an Aquaforce deck. It's fast, it hits a lot, and it's fast.
Wait, are we talking post My Glorious or pre?
Post
Pre, you
My
could
Glorious.
argue that.
Post
Okay,
My
I was gonna say
Glorious.
pre. You could argue that there's 2 builds that are stronger. Post,
Yeah.
definitely Ripples.
Yeah, pre My Glorious Justice, definitely. I think the better decks at this time, technically, where we're at right now, would be the Thavas build and Standard Plus. And the Standard Plus, I think, being Navel Gazer and Navel Gazer, Diamantes, and Riptides, and Thavas build. And the Thavas build I'm trying to refine right now, because I still think even after My Glorious Justice, Thavas is at least within I think the top 4 out of the top. Yeah, it's in the top 50% of the decks that I've thought of for Aquaforce.
I think post My Glorious, I would rank Thobus at exactly 4.
Yeah.
Thinking about it, I think Standard Plus falls to 5 because 2 other decks just catapult up to the top, which I'm not going to talk about yet.
Yeah.
But the Ripples post. Oh my God, Ripples post EBO8. I can't even begin to talk about it. Like, first off, I am a very firm believer that Odysseus is a card that should not exist. Like, the things it does for the clan, and the fact that playing Ripples feels like you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And Vanguard. It's like you can slot this mini engine into any Aquaforce deck that can fit it, and it's usually only like the 4 Odysseus, 1 to 2 Soterio, 2 to 4 Pavroth, 1 to 2 Genovius, 2 to 3 Miltiades. Like, you fit this mini engine, and you can put it in almost anything, and it instantly makes that deck better. and that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Mm.
I wholeheartedly agree. You stick that thing in a Maelstrom for Standard Plus, you can use Odysseus to fail to find a Ripple and just shove another Maelstrom inside the soul so you can start doing stupid shit. Um,
Are you
that
talking about the Maelstrom Elder Moss like first stride in golf?
yeah, like
Yeah.
you could do that stuff like that, and it's like people don't realize that it accelerates the deck's win con just by that much, just because oh look at me, I'm Odysseus and I'm here to do some stupid
Like,
shit.
so we've been testing two builds of ripples. There's basically the title Calm Assault build, and the Algos Nikolaz build. Both decks are very fantastic. The Algos build has a crazy high roll, probably one of the biggest high rolls I've ever seen in an early game in Vanguard. Like this, like the high roll of this deck makes like full strength ripples look like a joke, like way back in the day.
Yeah, because like this is what I think. This is what I think is gonna happen. Like the first major big tournament that happened, like maybe even as far out as Worlds for 2020,
Hmm.
Odysseus is getting restricted again
It should.
because there's no way like because when you showed me that deck with the Algoless Ripple deck, I'm like, there's no way a deck like this should exist. There's no way. Nah.
Of
Like
course, the deck always overperforms once you hit the Odysseus, but even if you don't hit the Odysseus, so like Nikolai's build, so you still have the Nikolai's rides, you still search out your second best ride target, which is your Algos. You still are able to go off and have your usual, standard EB awake Aqua Force combos with your Coral Assaults, your Algoses, your wheels if you have any more. It's really nice. The deck has no bad rides with Nikolai's wheel and Soteria, or if you open any plus Odysseus, then you start doing really ridiculous stuff. Um, I've grade one gamed people before, so I stayed on grade one and did my shenanigans, and then they dealt me a damage, so I rode over the wheel, and I did my shenanigans with that. Plus, then I Odysseus after, and just generated a stupid amount of advantage. Um, you can also Odysseus over the wheel if you somehow have damage early. Like, there's all sorts of crazy things you can do. Uh, grade 2 turn, you could do like really nutty stuff. You can call Coral Assaults out of your soul, back out of your soul, to go back into your soul and draw you cards. So they basically become like pseudo Pale Moon 24k Mirage attack uh, in a Ripple deck, and like it's really nasty. Like, so restanding the corals and stuff like no matter what on your grade 2 turn, you're threatening a restand. So you're either restanding with Algos because he's your Vanguard and restanding like Coral Assaults and stuff like that, or you're on Pavroth and you have on hits and you just commit like really big Nikolai's boosters to make a 21k Vanguard column, which they pretty much have to PG because I believe a heal trigger is a 1 to pass.
yeah, it is.
And you don't want to pass ripples because it's 16 crit.
Well, see, I'm not running 16 crit.
You
I'm
should
not.
be.
I'm not going for the full lumberjack build yet. Um,
You should be because you don't have a real stride game. I mean, you do, but you don't.
see, I at least want the heals. I at least want the heals.
You never resolve them. You're always ahead on damage.
Yeah, but I use them for G guards.
Don't
But
need it.
you should you shouldn't be on 3 first.
This is true, but this is also me.
When you're not playing incorrectly, you play 16 crit ripples because you never resolve heals, and you never need to G guard because you should never be the first to ride grade 3, unless they stayed on grade 2 for a turn, and you're like, oh, you're at 5 damage. You stay on grade 2 for a turn. I have 2 open CV. I'm just gonna Sea Breeze you,
Yeah,
kill you.
and like a lot of people are taking
Yeah.
out Seabreeze out of their deck too, so that's, in my opinion, kind of stupid. But whatever.
I don't mind if people Sea Breeze me because unless you're Luard, most of the time you're not going to get any like more advantage out of your deck than what you already had when you tried to grade 2 game me. So that's okay with me. If you Sea Breeze me, I just have to not die to your Sea Breeze and I should be okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is true, but some people, like, if they're at 5 and you Seabreeze and you have a decent board, they're gonna die.
The
There's
scariest thing with Sea Breeze is if they check a heal or a draw. That could potentially put them out of your reach. to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. But oh man, so like this is definitely a lot of stuff we covered. Um,
I've been playing this Ripple build almost exclusively into OTT and Neonectar, and Neonectar, in my opinion, has the best early game in Premium, barring us. And even the Neonectar player was like, "Your low rolls put me to 5 and threatened to kill me." It's like this is actually like disgusting.
so you,
And like we played the deck extensively, and his basic outlook on the match was first off, if he didn't know he was playing to Ripples, he'd auto lose. And then the second outlook he had on the matchup was he can't actually match my tempo if he kills my rear guards. He has to focus on killing me as fast as possible. Because when he was trying to kill my rear guards, he was stating like with the new additions, like you generate so much card advantage now, it's actually not possible to really outgas Ripples because they can stay on grade 2 and abuse Coral Assault for basically forever.
yeah, but now because of Wheel Assault, they can stay on grade 1 and do the exact same thing.
I wouldn't stay on grade 1 because your grade 2 turn is still way too strong.
Mm.
But yeah, it's impossible to really just flat out deny us because we can stay on grade 2 and we can just draw off Coral Assault for pretty much forever. And it's hard to out advantage that when we could just swing at your face 4 times every turn.
Yeah, and it's
So he found the best thing to do was to go face 2, just play a game of chicken basically. But yeah, it went really well in testing. I busted out all sorts of stuff. I busted out First Try Ballerina. I busted out Seabreeze. I busted out Alexandros. I've Legion on him a couple of times. I brought out the Commander. I brought out. Did I say Lambros?
yeah, you said Lambros.
Yeah, like pretty much every stride in our deck, if they're at 4 or 5 damage, becomes a first stride kill, which is it's very very scary.
Yeah, I like at 5 damage, 4 or 5 damage. Ballerina is if you have at least a decent hand size with like 4 to 5 grade 1s and below before your drive check, you have a good chance of killing them.
You know, Ballerina, you know, I made the Yu-Gi-Oh reference with the Ripple engine. Ballerina reminds me of Maxi. You can't take the Ballerina challenge against Ripples because they're always going to have way more cards in hand than you. You probably have like maybe 4 cards at best when they're striding to Ballerina. And you're playing a literal guessing game of if you can stop 4 or 5 attacks when you can't take any damage.
Yeah.
Like, and that's something really scary. If you guys watched my games against Black Eye last night on his stream, he Ballerina'd me, and I had to try and bluff. I had 4 cards in hand, plus I had a Protect 2 marker with an Intercept, and I had to try and bluff that I could guard his Ballerina. I still couldn't do it. Like, it's way too hard. You only can PG it, and even then, there's still like 3 to 4 other attacks you still have to guard.
Yeah, and it's like most likely those attacks are going to be huge because Coral Assault, Tidal Assault on an Excel Circle, or just multiple Coral Assaults because you have a Wheel Assault.
And it's Ripples. Half your deck is under grade 2.
Yeah.
So it's like Ballerina is actually really nasty in Ripples.
Yeah,
Probably the best first strat if you can strat it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like you go ahead, you do the whole ride the fucking Diamantes, get your Excel Circle. Like in that matchup, like I like to go Excel too, so I can just because if I know I'm going into Ballerina and I know my luck, I have a high chance of getting a grade 1 or a grade
Excel
0.
Ripples because it draws you cards.
Yeah. And it's like you have that extra chance if you know you're going in Ballerina, then you have that extra piece of fuel just to mess up your opponent. And like I said in my last like 48-minute long video, you need to plan out your next turns. So like not necessarily like dumping a trigger for Ballerina's skill, not a heal trigger because you want those for G guards. Like you can dump a crit, you can dump a draw trigger, you can dump a PG, and then you're playing Ripples. So most likely by this time that you have Ballerina out, you have an Odysseus out. You have some other rear guard you can shove into Soul that's in your back row that your opponent can't touch unless they're playing Narukami or Kagero or Shadows. So you can go ahead and ride Miltiada's next turn, Legion, and get those cards back. So
I mean, would you even Legion though? Because you have Ballerina face up. Just Stride.
Yeah. This is true. Then you just go into, what am I talking about? I'm not thinking. Just go straight into not Alexandros. Well, you
Lambros.
can go into Alexandros. No,
Oh,
not even
Lambros.
Lambros. I wouldn't go into Lambros. I'd go into Valios. I'd go into Valios. Lock them down at 11. That way, it doesn't make my
Yeah, you
rear
could
guard.
just call no cards. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So then, like, I'll go ahead, call no cards, like in the beginning before the attack starts. Go ahead, swing, and then counterblast one, flip something up, call out 2 cards, draw 2 cards, and then they're stuck at 11. If I call out Miltiades or I call out Diamantes, guess what? My stuff is still relevant. It still hits you. You're still stuck at 11. It doesn't matter. Give the power to your rear guards. I don't give a fuck about your rear guards. I'm going straight for face. I'm trying to end you at that point. Most of the time, from my experience, from what I've seen, if people survive a ballerina, they're around 4 to 5 damage. And when I go into Alexandros, you're at 4 to 5 damage with an 11k base Vanguard that you're probably ill suited to guard. And I'm completely okay with that. Completely okay with that. Which brings me to my next point. I think people are way undervaluing Valios as a stride. Yeah, he's a little bit slower to get going, but he still is a great card.
I was actually glad that in Different Fights video, I don't know if you watched it, but he actually has a lot of praise for the card. And he even said, like, it's a shame it's so slow, but he thinks that it would have had a lot of potential if the meta wasn't so fast. And, like, I had a lot of respect for that because a lot of people just just wrote off the stride almost immediately, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, it's not for a stride, it's not fast, therefore it's not good, but it's actually very good. And
I mean, you're talking about a format dictated by that type of stuff, though. Yeah. Like, think about it. You know, Premium is a format that's dictated how fast can you go. If it's not 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, then guess what? Your deck isn't top. Your card sucks. It doesn't matter what the card does because Valios is slower, and although Valios I feel is a great card and fantastic for us, at the end of the day, it's just too slow for the current meta that is Premium.
I don't know. These people just, they need some enlightenment. We're the ones to give it to them. I'm okay with that. Ooh, my stuff is almost here. It's at the post office. I can pick it up tomorrow morning. Nice. Sorry about that, guys. Anyway,
but
yeah, go ahead.
Valios is very good if you can get there, and I do think like we have the capability to get there. It's just reliably against the best decks. That remains to be seen. Against OTT you can. Against Luard, I don't know, to be honest. I don't know how often you can reliably get there. I'm usually the one playing Luard. I'm not playing Aquaforce into it.
Well, I mean, I played against your Luard and with my ripples, like not this current build that I have right now, but my previous versions. And then, you know, my build wasn't as optimal, but still, it's kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of difficult because living past, like, there's times where I may live past a Morfessa, a first turn Morfessa, and then after that, it's just like my hand is so trash. It's like I don't even want to bother going into it. I'd rather go into something else that might help out a little bit better with the cards that I have in my hand, like a commander, so that way I could at least, you know, make something attack from the back row that I might already have there, and then just put something on an Excel circle. It's either a commander or a whaling if I can get the attacks off. But Alexandra, or not Alexandros, yeah, maybe even in Alexandros, if I G-guarded enough, because usually that's how I live against Morfessa, but like most of the time I don't see myself getting to second stride against a well-played Luard deck. That's definitely a key phrasing. Because I played some shadow players that were kind of, well, I don't have 10 grade 0s and 1s. I don't know what to do.
Honestly, in that game, like, because it was so uncertain, I probably actually should have just went to the Drag Abyss. But I factored that I probably wouldn't survive your turn if I didn't manage to Morfessa you. So yeah. I had to gamble for it, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what half this game is about, variance. Variance and taking your chance.
But yeah.
I don't know, but I do know one thing. Aquaforce definitely is in a way better spot in both premium and standard that people are giving it than people are giving it credit for. The most difficult choice I think right now for not for standard but for premium is for me anyway for fine tuning my deck. It's Saber Flow or Coral Assault. You know, gaining one card and getting power, or getting two cards in my hand for a fantastic mid-battle Mirage unit, which meshes so well with Alexandros.
Yeah.
So those are questions you gotta ask yourself. Do you just want power, or do you want, hey, this may not hit, but you know, I have a unit that's gonna do some damage later on, technically, because I'm gonna be drawing more cards. And it's not like you can't get to fourth battle prior to swinging with Alexandros. So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
It's
So
uh it's something, that's for sure. And like knowing that the meta is Ichikushima, Luar, Victor, Azel, Neonectar, Gasteel going forward, it's like you have to know if you can reliably beat at least, if not half, at least like four of these six, to possibly be considered like a strong enough rogue deck. And while I do feel that we like almost every build we have has a good matchup into Gasteel and Victor, I believe that we can outplay Victor if you are very smart on your play. Um, Luard is always going to remain a question mark. Ichi, like, I don't know. I like outside of even Ripple sometimes. Like there's times where like I just blast the deck, and there's times where I'm just like, well, I guess I didn't do anything, and you wrote to 3, so I lost. So it's like I don't know about that. And Ezel is just straight up a true bad matchup. I wouldn't even like put stock in that, which means you just have to early game to two on par with Neonectar. So I think of all of these, Ripples technically has like the best checklist. Um,
yeah,
if it's good enough, that's hard to say, but I do think it at least has very very capable rogue tier status.
no, I don't think it's. I think it's better than Rogue Tears, definitely, in my opinion at least. But I'm I'm a little bit biased, so
I think it's rogue tier. I don't think I don't think it's tier one by any stretch, but I do feel that playing ripples into this meta, you can very easily take games off of these top decks, especially when they're not expecting to match into 16 crit ripples. Um, like it is a very fast-paced, very aggressive game, and most decks are going to like they're going to mulligan to early game, but they're not going to mulligan to early game like that.
yeah.
And especially in a best of one format, you can really catch people and do some crazy stuff. So I think I think it's going to be a very solid rogue deck. I think Nubatama and Anj kind of dropped to rogue. I don't believe they're going to be considered tier 1 decks anymore. Like they're not going to reliably top into this meta. They're going to struggle with a lot of the other stuff.
Well, Nubatama, I think it just depends on the rest of the support because remember we still got a Tamahagane to get revealed, which
I mean,
is
yeah, but OTT Shadows and Golds and DI are all getting support too.
well, Golds technically are getting
Another Ezel.
yeah, they're getting another Ezel. They may get an alternative starter, which nobody will run.
They're getting Hole and Kahidan.
Yeah, but it's not gonna run with
I
Oh,
don't know that.
they're getting the grade one, grade two
Yeah.
combo. Okay, all right. So yeah, okay. So I was wrong. I was wrong. I'm sorry. So then that means after that, those three cards, it's just the extra front trigger, extra crit trigger. Because golds are sadly just getting 5 cards
Yep.
now. Now, like Nubatama, we're getting 10 cards. Um, two
You
of
know,
them,
at least one's Tomahogany and the
yeah,
other's Jamil Congo.
yeah. And I'm hoping for some Magatsu love. That's what I'm hoping for, and then in turn, just give us some decent support for premium, but I don't know if that's going to be the case because like I valued Magatsu a little bit higher than a lot of things just because I was looking at premium and I was like, oh, Ikishima and Tom are stupid. Why why does this happen? Well, at least I can block Ikishima with Magatsu Storm, do his stupid skill counterblast and
It's
kill
only
him.
Vanguard on Vanguard though.
Yeah, it's just Vanguard on Vanguard, but that's less hand that I have to get rid of. If it can save me hand, I'm okay with that. And most of the time, from at least the way that I play it, it's very, it's not like a heavy commitment from my hand. If it is a commitment from my hand, it's from a card that I drew off of a skill. At least, yes, that's the way that I've been practicing and playing it. I could be wrong. If I am wrong or you guys have other ideas, put it in the comments. Definitely let me know. But that's just, the way that I was feeling and the way I was thinking. Why Kujikiri Kongo is, while he's great for first ride, you're not always going to get that first ride. Sometimes you might have to ride a Big Bakaw, the fucking Blackbird. I can't remember his name, but the discard 5 guy, him. You might have to ride him first. Yeah, Big Bird or Big Bakaw. That's what I love to call him. And sometimes you'll ride Magatsu Storm, and that's not a horrible thing. That's a good card. Oh no, if I bounce the card, which my deck does, I get to Soul Blast a 3 because I Soul Charge, and I run a high number of 3s. I get to do more attacks, and they all get power, and I draw a card. Not bad at all. Okay. Well,
I think they need some help, but
they do need help. They definitely need some milk. They need some milk. They need some orange juice, some pancakes, stack of bacon, some sausage. They need everything. They need everything they can get. But they're only getting.
I think like them aside though, like really under the radar possible rogue decks to look out for at tournaments are going to be premium Tachis, especially after they get support in the fall. Gear Chronicle, they can usually high roll you, and like they do multi-attack really well still, like especially with Time Leap coming back. That mostly depends on if they get lucky, they could get the double force trigger off Lost Legend going first, which I think is the optimal build. People will say it's clunky, but like you're playing Gear Chronicle, dude. If you're not playing the high roll, then you probably shouldn't be playing it at an event. And I think Great Nature is very sleeper tier, OP.
I think not Neo Nectar, but the other green clan, Bugs, Mega Colony. I think they're sleeper. That's just me.
Bugs?
Yeah, Bugs. Cause like just hear me out. They stop you from standing. They stop like for other clans like Golds. This hurts them a lot, but it stops them from superior calling. And you just said that Aqua Force is going to be a rogue deck. So not too many people are going to be playing it. So when they do go against it, they should know that we mostly call from hand anyway, so it doesn't matter. OTT calls from hand, so they're going to have to deal with that, but it still stuns, and that's more cards that they have to waste that, they draw 15 cards anyway, like 1,000,000 cards that they manipulate their drive checks. It's just, I think Bugs are going to be a good contender. And especially since like they're pretty decent now. They search out their 3s, they stun boards, and I'm not a fan of that card. I think its name is Water Gang, where when it stands you draw a card. I'm not a fan of that. That card's dumb.
I don't think you should be running that though.
No.
See, my issue with Morfessa is 0 offensive power and like just doesn't really do anything. And it has so many random bad rogue matchups, even if it does do well into some of the top decks.
Yeah. You're right.
So it's hard to want to say that it'll do well, because I feel like it just loses to too many random things and like it doesn't have any pressure.
No, you are definitely right on that one. Because like like I'm not exactly. I can't like. I'm drawing a blank right now, like on things that are like hyper awesome, but beat the piss out of Morfessa. But then I can think of like some random rogue decks like D Police that just like, all right, I'm here. I put my put these couple crits on the board, and we're gonna swing at you. Have fun.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I think D Police is more of like a threatening rogue deck than bugs.
mm, yeah, just because of what's his name, Ultimate Dayusha. Like he doesn't stand anything, but he gets a superior ride after you swing. So I mean, in my opinion, that's pretty good.
I mean,
And
necessarily that. Have you seen these Bravest Peak decks? Like some of them are nasty, dude.
no, I have not, and I plan on keeping it that way. I do
Well, I
not.
really should look into it.
Oh no, I am a-okay staying on this side of the chrome. Uh, I'll keep my happy butt inside the water. I'm good.
Yeah,
Um,
there's some decent rogue options for sure. Like going into premium that people should just be aware of. Like despite what people say, some decks definitely can and will be able to play into the top decks, but it is very much still a first stride meta. So you have to be aware playing into that. Like if you can't early game as well as these decks, and if you don't have the ability to win on first stride, you're probably not going to be able to win. I think the only real second stride kill deck in this meta is OTT. And it's just because it's so hard to kill them,
yeah,
even in your first stride, if you're not already one of the top deck.
yeah, because like you played me with Morfessa and you played me with something else. Oh, Dark Irregulars. Those two decks, they definitely can kill me on the first stride. It's either they kill me on the first stride or they leave me with like barely any cards in hand to stride with for the next turn. So
Absolutely, like it's pretty crazy. Like I feel like they need to do something. I feel the introduction of a real ban list might have to happen. I think some cards might just need to be like hard ban, 0 copies in a deck. I think the main offenders are possibly Odysseus, Enigmatic Assassin, and Cursed Raven. What are your thoughts?
see, I don't Odysseus. I don't think he should be hard banned. Maybe put him back down to 2. If you put him back down to 1, that's gonna kill it automatically, and that's definitely gonna. It'll slow down ripples, but it won't stop them.
We've already shown though, it at 2 is more than enough to continue existing.
Yeah, but it still like slowed them down. They weren't at like soon as people saw, oh man, they're only at 2. Uh, yeah, it slowed them down. It They kept existing, but it wasn't as frequent because it lost belief from people because they're like, oh, this is not at 4. It's not as consistent. I can't do this as much. I'm done. It's not easy. So that like to me, if you put it down to 2 or to 1, that quote unquote is gonna kill it because people won't believe in the deck anymore. But
I mean, it's something that has to happen though. You can't future-proof
no,
every card for Odysseus.
no, you can't. I mean, they did it for D Police with Laurel, the first iteration anyway, for however many years they had. Hopefully, they've learned their lesson, but they probably haven't.
Maybe. Enigmatic, I think, does need to be hit though. As long as
Uh,
it exists, No Life King will always abuse it. No Life King's always going to be a primary target for Gastiel going forward, and like Assassin in its own right is always going to be amazing with whatever targets that Gastiel decides to go into. If you can't No Life King, if by some miracle that ends up happening, so like I feel Assassin and Odysseus are cards that limit design space, and like it's very hard to continue supporting the clans without breaking cards like this, like cards that just single-handedly generate like ridiculous and I hate using the word degenerate, but degenerate combos because they really do. And Cursed Raven. Now this is one a lot of people are gonna be like, huh? But like, if you think about it, Luard was a deck that never even really topped. Like all it did was turtle until GBT10 when the loop builds first came out in Japan and people were looping on Orgazar Doomed and looping on the GBA turn. And at the center of every Luard deck, all of its success, it's always been this damn Raven just doing shit and for free that it really shouldn't be able to.
I mean, yeah, that may be true, but I think now because Raven goes and gets 2 grade 1 or less, right, and puts them at rest.
No, top 2 of the deck, and you
Oh,
can
top 2
call
of
them
the
to
deck.
rest or put them
Okay.
at the bottom.
Okay, then yeah, never mind. Yeah, Raven needs to go.
And like it triggers. Okay, so this is what Raven does, and this is why people need to understand this card is so good. So first off, the interactions between Raven and Noise, which is why everybody's playing Noise again for the first time since set 12, even
Nice.
though it's always been still a good card. Noise and Raven can call each other and then use each other's effect to call each other. So you could get to a loop where you continue to use Raven to back then it was to pump up Grozny's and Gonbars. Now it's to thin your deck of non-triggers. More or less, it's still always the same process. So you play your Ravens. It can trigger your so it can trigger your Charons. It can potentially call you stuff that you need if you're still short, you need to go off. So like, there's been times where I've used it, and I've hit a Belial, and that's like I needed that plus to retire, like for instance, to get my PGs back, my Exorcists, or I've needed it to use for sack outlet. So like, it could do all sorts of things. Um, so it could get you stuff you need to retire, whether it's for resources, drawing cards, counterblast, what have you. And you don't have to take the targets. It could thin your deck of non-triggers, get out all those 11, all those like dead Luards and shit like that you don't want to draw into. It can call out more. You call out more combo pieces. So this is in the case of the Noise, and whatnot. It can call some other stuff if you like that used to be ran back in the day. There's a bunch of other stuff that worked on proc. So like for instance Fadlas. So you could call a Fadla 2, counterblast, and then call out 2 more Ravens, and then go off again. But the Fadla extension is only really good if you're playing stuff like Gonvar or like Grozny is getting big while you're doing this, because the Fadla play was always like an extra 6k power on top of whatever when you resolve it, which is just really good because that's how you made like those really big Gonvars when you're swinging with the Drag Striders. Now it just functions basically to thin your deck. So like the Fadla is nice in theory, getting Belials or Ravens, but it's win more. You don't need it. It's probably better to just run Blaster Dark, Slaptails, um, or just more Maka, more Noise. Um, I just think it's way too good at what it does. Raven is way too efficient. It's free. It's impossible to interact with because the only way they don't loop stuff out is if they damage it or guard with it. You cannot interact with it any other way because you'll never see it on the board for then. Um, and it's always going back to deck, so it just stacks the deck for stands when they loop their deck thoroughly enough. Of course, nothing but crits and stands, and like that's when you get those really potent first stride Morfessa turns where it's like, okay, so like he's gonna rip triggers and just absolutely like blow me out of the water, and like it just adds to more of what makes Luard kind of over the top. I feel if they hit it, it wouldn't kill Luard, but it'd be enough to make the deck a bit more honest and force them to run more Craftings and probably some Arcer or something like that. They still want to run 6 stands or they just go more crits. But like it would take that extra just free power they get from filtering their deck. And the other thing too is like even if they don't first stride kill you, they may have just barely gotten Ritual 10 on their first stride, but after looping with all these Ravens and filtering their deck of like all these non-triggers, they're guaranteed having Ritual 10 second stride. So like,
yeah, definitely.
it's just a lot of free invisible power that people don't notice. And if you're a Luar player, you do notice because like you do understand the power that it gives you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because it's and like that goes back to knowing your deck and knowing what your deck can do. If your opponent doesn't study up, and like it's not even really like study, it's just like having knowledge of like what other decks do. You can just get a general gist of what they do, watch some gameplay videos, or just ask one of your friends that might play the deck and be like, hey, what's this supposed to do, Bob? And then they're like, oh, well, this deck is supposed to be at, Ritual 10 by blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, you're going to put 10 ones in there? Like, no, my zeros count too. It's like, then you start to put the pieces together, because at least for me, it goes, oh, this is supposed to do this? All right, what makes this do this? What makes this run optimally? And then if I really want to know how to stop it, I'll build the deck and try to play it, and then I'll figure out counterplays from there, which is what I normally do. But yeah, so just all in all, I think Premium is definitely in a good spot. I think Aquaforce is definitely in a better spot than most people give it credit for, at least in the standard.
I'd say in both
standard and
formats,
premium.
it's very much playable.
Yeah, definitely. Man. Alright, this definitely was a long one. I am definitely gonna have to tap out here though. So thank you guys for watching. If you guys have stuck through both of these videos. And any of you guys got anything you want to say before we head out?
Yes. A reminder to, if you haven't, of course, follow all the guys that usually do this podcast. So,
Yes.
Strife King, Wave Nation, Tiskill, obviously Senpai. Give our content creators a lot of love. Make sure you check out the Force of the Ocean blog post, where a bunch of us also write on the blog, and to look forward for part 2 from our premium article, which should be coming out in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be dropping. Definitely pay attention to Cardfight King's next couple videos. Definitely pay attention to the end of this video, because there's gonna be a special little decoder message that you guys are gonna have to put together. That's actually gonna coincide with our with the blog post that Zay's gonna post out. So
if any of you can contact me after seeing all the little hidden Easter eggs and figuring out what the deck is, I will reveal the list to you before my 3rd article, which will show all the deck lists. But yeah, there will be a bunch of little teasers of what one of the main decks I'm going to be talking about is in my next article, courtesy of our Octoforce content creators, and they're going to be posting them in their YouTube videos. So just look out for that.
Oh yeah, definitely. That deck is just definitely some sauce. I'm telling you, nice solid
spicy.
sauce.
It is a spicy build. That's for sure.
All right, CFK, what you got?
Just want to say again, thank you for listening. Aquaforce is not a bad clan. I understand that we are enthusiasts of the clan to a certain degree, some more than others. But the reason is because we've played this clan for years and multiple times, through multiple formats, regardless of premium and or standard. And I truly believe that people don't give us the respect we deserve. On launch, we get a lot of hype, and then after launch, a lot of people end up dropping the deck because they're having a hard time winning with it or adapting to a new meta. This is why we play the deck. This is why we practice this, because we try to figure out the matches rather than cry about Bermuda's being the best deck in the game. We figure out how can we tune our decks, how can we tune our playstyles to compete against them, at the most consistent basis possible. So that's all I have to say. Try it out, keep playing it, and get better. Aqua Life, baby. You already know.
Spoken like a true king. Alright, everybody. So, like the other two have said, I do want to thank you for watching / listening. Hopefully you've been educated and entertained throughout these last 2 videos. And anyway, Black Guy Senpai, we out.